You won't believe this, but Phil Spencer, Xbox, and Microsoft don't really like gamers or gaming in general. I know, kinda honestly shocking, isn't it?
It took a while to find the right words to begin this video with, but I think we found them. They are the words of Phil Spencer, and I'm just going to say them straight. We have more players, games, and gaming hours than ever before. Our platform, hardware, and game roadmap have never looked stronger. Yeah, Phil Spencer said
This is another one of those, oh, Xbox is doing fine while losing money, showing a record low player numbers, and all of those things. Whenever Phil Spencer says, oh, we have better numbers than ever, that's because they're probably counting, games played in milliseconds and then saying, haha, we have 100 trillion units of time measurement that gamers have played Xbox. That's impressively good. Trust me, bro. Pathetic.
those. He didn't say them a few months ago, he said them, well, pretty much now. That's how he opened his memo to staff, right before he laid off many thousands of those staff. You see, this is
And again, there's gonna be Xbox fanboys literally in the comment section saying, oh, trust me, this is all good. This is just a magical switch to AI once again. For the 5th time in 3 years. Yes, I believe you.
Xbox's 4th round of layoffs in 18 months. Microsoft stock just hit an all-time high one day before these layoffs.
Good. I have Microsoft stock.
And we can see their reporting. And in that reporting, we see the Xbox division is profitable. So, how can they justify all of these cancelled games, all of these closed studios, and all of these layoffs? Well, we're going to see how they're trying, but I have a sense that most of you think they can't. Xbox haven't been willing to put firm numbers in the impact here, but the total number of layoffs across the whole organization of Microsoft is around 9,000 people. That's 4% of the whole company. April had a layoff of about 6,000 people.
More!
This was mostly within Microsoft's wider structure and management. This week's layoffs have seemingly been focused quite heavily on Xbox. GameFiler reporting that Microsoft would only confirm that Xbox's layoffs were, quote, less than half of the company's overall layoffs, which is still really bad, because that could still mean up to 4,500 people have lost their jobs or are still in the
Oh no! The talentless losers who make gaming verse for me. How will I ever sleep now? Knowing that these losers are gonna just probably go to the next AAA shit show company that's gonna hire them and keep ruining gaming. How will I ever recover?
Process of learning if they're going to lose their jobs. Because yes, some people don't know. Even, days later as this sort of process rolls on, many people don't know. I know people who don't know. Of course, in many instances, people just...
Oh, by the way, did I already call this or not? That the Xbox, what's it called? Game Pass is gonna soon increase its price.
Found out immediately.
In case I didn't, I just want to say that that's happening probably not even until the end of the year at this rate.
And that does bring me to how these were delivered. This has been handled abominably. Basically, information was delivered as each time zone started their day, with staff, of course, being scheduled for meetings and just having access to their tools being turned off, and even hearing about layoffs via social media leaks, faster than from their own teams. And it actually wasn't until very late in the day that the statement from Xbox Studios head Matt Booty eventually leaked out and seemingly put a cap on the total casualty list. But man, it is a long list. 3 announced games have ended their development. Rare's Everwild has been cancelled. That's after a decade in development, and layoffs are impacting that team. Then 35-year company veterans like Greg Mails and Louise O'Connor are planning to leave the company in the wake of that move. Obviously, that's a project that was going nowhere fast, but if those people thought it was going somewhere, it's dead.
10 years, okay? As some people said in the comment section previously, Fable taking 10 years to develop is actually really good if you don't think about it. Based, true, and real.
Probably for them, it's the right time to just get the hell out. Of course, another game is Perfect Dark. It's been cancelled, and the development studio, The Initiative...
No one is sad.
is being shuttered entirely, and the staff are being released. Now, Xbox billed it, right, as a quadruple A game. Nice wee testament to hubris. And the initiative was a studio purpose-built to make such games, to make quadruple A games. I mean, bullshit, right? And of course, it was a total shit show. Perfect Dark underwent significant creative depth.
Again, Xbox is constantly saying everything's fine. Don't you worry about it, okay? Everything's fine. And yet they just keep doing things that any other company would only do when things are not going fine. That's impressive. That's so interesting.
Deadlock, there were staff overhauls. It was really the usual AAA, bullshit, but I suppose with another A whacked on for good measure. But we still did see this demo. It was, not really a vertical slice of the game. Bits were staged, but obviously that is a thing with demos. But
God damn if that cannon is not gonna beat all the men in hand-to-hand combat because fucking reasons.
It's dead, and this tweet from Xbox really does not age well. This cancellation also has an impact on another group, and that's co-developer Crystal Dynamics, because they've obviously just lost a humongous contract. Now, you may remember they're also now owned by the Embracer Group, and as you know from the news cycle, Embracer are very willing to make deep cuts when they need to. Next, Blizzard Entertainment. Warcraft Rumble is ending content development, and man, that thing was in development for a
Dude, I didn't even get to play it.
Long ass time. It obviously wasn't really going anywhere, and with that and other layoffs, it's basically hitting up to 100 staff at Blizzard.
Oh
Though
no!
I am a little bit wanting to put an asterisk on that, at least from—
Oh no, the people who ruined Diablo in general, I guess, and World of Warcraft, hopefully they don't get canned. Oh no!
I've been able to observe, there are some functions that would have been—
Again, World of Warcraft looking like a DEI shit show was literally trending 4 days ago, 3 days ago or something. People literally cannot believe how bad and poor the state of World of Warcraft is in the modern day. It is a joke.
Blizzard traditionally, that then sort of moved into like a shared pool with Activision. So it could be that there are many more than just 100 people who work in and around Blizzard stuff that would be impacted by a layoff like this. Now, of course, there's also the topic of games we're never going to see, but we also didn't really hear about. That's because unannounced things have been cancelled. ZeniMax Online Studios were working on Blackbird. Blackbird was a new MMO. It was in development for nearly 8 years. Now it's gone. And with that being cancelled, ZeniMax president Matt Ferrer has announced that he is leaving the company. Because obviously, look at what happened. Then there's a new shooter from the Romeros. Yeah, as in like John Romero of Doom fame. So they were making that game down in Galway under Bethesda, but it's actually had its funding pulled. So this is quite literally a thing where this is an external company, not one owned by Microsoft, who were in development. They had a publishing deal. That deal has now been cancelled. And the Romeros say that they will not be the only project like this. So we know about these layoffs, but there's almost certainly going to be many more layoffs from companies who are impacted by the ripple effects of all.
Everything is going so good that the company that literally is known for not having games is canceling games. I mean, surely everything is just going swimmingly.
All of these cancellations.
And listen, by the way, when they say they were profitable, I'm not even gonna check that. I know that they're not lying about that. There's no way you can spin basic profitability. Trust me, I fucking have tried, okay? Worked in the government, finance. I span a lot of things, but at the end of the day, profitability is not... Actually, having a plus or minus on your profits is not that easy to spin unless you are willing to go to jail, okay? Most of the time, at least. There are some workarounds, but no one's that fucking insane. Even Microsoft. Okay? And I believe them, but I can smell this, okay? This is why I'm constantly laughing and talking about this. I can fucking smell this shit over the street, okay? I can feel it. They know that things are gonna get bad soon because they see the fucking wall. They see the vault of their Game Pass bullshit shenanigans. And they know that it's gonna not be looking good soon, so they're already cutting costs looking like probably 2 years into the future at this point. This is them fucking panicking already for something that's probably 2 years into the future. Because they know how absolutely fucking in the wall they have driven themselves. And that's really bad.
Now then, of course, there are wider Xbox losses to contend with as well. Windows Central reporting that the core hardware teams have largely avoided the cuts, but then The Verge is reporting that the quality team at the user research division has been halved. Because, you know, quality, optional, I suppose. And also, the head of family and child safety is also leaving. So that's, you know, nice, cheery stuff. I suppose they can replace that with an AI. It'll be fine. Then marketing and community support layoffs have been reported on World of Warcraft, on ZeniMax, Bethesda stuff.
Yeah, again, after the whole world literally just took a giant collective shit on World of Warcraft, yeah, they should probably fire everyone in marketing.
And of course, there's many more layoffs that will not be reported as full layoffs because they were like with contractors whose work won't be renewed. And this stuff really does blow. Even an example in, say, World of Warcraft, one of the things that their social media team did over the last few years is basically work out how to connect with the people, like make memes, stuff, you know, on social content that actually kind of ingratiated themselves to the community. It's a sort of thing that, you know, only the internal team could actually do. But now we found out.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. We typically talk about the exact reverse of what I'm gonna say now, but World of Warcraft is at the position where they should literally not give a flying fuck about anything the current existing community of the game thinks. They should be betraying their current audience for the modern audience, or whatever literal any scrap of audience that they can get, because the people still playing retail are gonna buy any slop that you're selling at this point. They're brainless. They're either brainless or they're so bored that there's nothing else for them to play. One of the two options. And both of these two groups of people literally could not care less. So it's Blizzard should not listen to their old fans at this point. They should go for the modern audience because they have nothing left.
It's all just going to be outsourced, so I'm sure it'll just be sauceless slop. Lovely. But it's not the end. Developer layoffs hit Undead Labs, the Overwatch team, and King, who have lost 200 people. And then there's Call of Duty. Even
Bro, why the hell does a game why the hell does Candy Crush even need 200 people working on it? Maintaining, improving, fixing, and doing everything with Candy Crush is probably like a 10 people job. But they probably have 500 working at that crap. That's insane.
And then there's Call of Duty. Even COD wasn't safe here. So High Moon, Sledgehammer, and Raven have all taken hits, which I've got to say is absolutely wild because they've appeared to be the studios who have been thrown into awful development situations of basically, hey, we need a yearly COD. It's basically a bit screwed. Please go fix it so we get something. That even those teams are being hit on, I mean, COD, like one of the largest like franchises or properties on Earth. Kind of crazy. Next then, Turn 10, who are the creators of Forza Motorsports. Well, they're not having a nice time. Now, they've had 2 decades of specialized experience on racing games, and now they've been halved. Yes, halved. 70 people, half the studio are gone. And to season that wound with some lovely salt and vinegar, well, it's kind of their fault, because Forza Motorsports turned into a live service, so I guess there's no need for sequels, so I guess, you know, we'll just throw all of that talent into the bin. Lovely. Of course, there's the other Forza stuff, Horizons, which comes from another studio called Playground. So, you might be wondering, why did all of this have to happen? Especially because, as Phil Spencer said, Xbox is in the best position that it's been in flippin' decades. Revenue, right? Revenue is spiked. Spiked on a quarterly level.
Oh, wait, it's revenue? Oh, no. That's bad.
Hiked on an annual level in the last few years. There's been regulatory changes that have been so in their favor that basically mean they've just unlocked the mobile store that they've been trying to build. Just big for their business. They've done this whole shift.
Okay, listen, boys. You know, okay, this is even worse. I actually thought that they're talking about fucking profit being in the positives, but revenue. Let me explain something I have not explained previously about the word revenue. Okay, here's the definition: revenue.
Revenue.
Oh, that was loud. Not even sorry. Income, comma, essentially, especially when when of an organization and of a substantial nature. Oh, it's a noun. Well, this doesn't actually that doesn't say a lot. Okay, but listen, revenue is different than pure profit. And all of these companies, I never get to speak about this because I'm kind of excited, okay, a little bit. But that's the thing about revenue, okay? This is why Microsoft and every single fucking other company in the world that's ginormous has this neat little thing called subsidiaries, sister companies, and insert insert different term for a company that was made by the bigger company that is owned by the bigger company and does a different thing. Okay? All of this works in one way, right? Microsoft takes their money that they have and then they flood it into a sister company or whatever. Okay? That already creates revenue for the other company, and that revenue from the other company boosts the revenue from whatever. Then they take that money, they make it more valuable because they do some random shit with it, and then they flood it back into Microsoft. Effectively, when you're using the term revenue, you need to look at how many different type of companies that exist that surround Microsoft, and where Microsoft puts that money into another company and that money gets shuffled back to them, but now it's worth more because something was done with it, okay? That's why revenue is not a good number. Okay? That not a good not a good number, but not a good thing in a lot of cases. This is why we look at in finance, this is why we look at all of the numbers. Pure profit, revenue, this, that, literal percents of whatever being paid. We look at a bunch of numbers because just revenue. Saying just revenue is pretty fucking bad because maybe that revenue is actually a loss in profits and you don't even know it. Okay, there are things like that that need to be considered.
You know what we've all seen to them being a third-party publisher? They're basically selling probably more games on PlayStation than Xbox now. The Switch stuff has also gone well. They've got constant bestsellers for old ports. They're publishing games on a near monthly basis. So with all of that, how can a company that's like boasting about all this success need to cut this deeply? The answer is simple. They didn't need to. They chose to. To understand all this, there's a very telling line in Phil Spencer's email to staff: follow Microsoft's lead. So it's basically Spencer framing it as part of Microsoft's overall reduction in management roles. Of course, the thing is, we've seen far more regular staff than managers get fired this week.
Good.
Like, Xbox can come up with whatever business strategy they'd...
Considering everyone can be the manager, I actually like the managers more than the average staff.
like to run their business. They can pivot to Game Pass. They can give up exclusivity. They can stick an Xbox.
They already pivoted to Game Pass. They have already completely forsake exclusivity.
Logo and any bit of hardware that can possibly stream a game. But, you know...
they have... Well, Xbox hasn't given up on their hardware, but I mean... They're kind of just in it at this point, I would say. Nothing serious is happening with Xbox and hardware as far as I can tell. Not a hardware guy, but as far as I can tell, it's like nothing's really happening in that regard.
If Microsoft's AI business can have 22% growth of $4.5 billion last quarter, well, then Xbox needs to improve its own $270 million and 5% growth. It's not enough to just make the line go up. You've got to do better. And of course, a lot of people would say,
I'm pretty sure someone currently at Microsoft is sitting, looking at a picture of a portrait framed picture of Sam Bankman-Fried being like, I can be like you, buddy. Just watch. Just watch.
Yes, but look, whenever there's M&A, mergers and acquisitions activity, there will be duplicated roles across a company. Here's the thing, removing that duplication can, in a very reductive sense, be good for that company, can be more efficient. Obviously, a lot of mission-specific skills will be lost, but it's actually far more inefficient. It's very bad for us, the customer. That's because those duplicated roles used to be competing against each other, which, makes the market better for us as consumers. That's why, broadly, a lot of this M&A activity has been very, very bad. Now, Phil Spencer has certainly wanted to set up this whole narrative. That's because in Summer Games Fest, he was laying the groundwork. He talked about how, quote, we're accountable to Microsoft for running a good business, a healthy business that continues to grow at both top line...
Yeah, no shit, they own you, Phil Spencer. What? Of course you're kind of course. They own you.
And bottom line, before then going on to talk about trade-offs where some things would not be invested in anymore. A fun statement, a bit of a sandwich, right? It's the meat, where, one bit of bread was the April cuts, and the new bit of bread in this horrible sandwich is the July cuts that just happened. But clearly, Xbox leadership have been given their marching orders, direct from Satya, the big man himself. And it seems those orders are that they need to cut massive numbers of their staff and their projects. Now, does this exonerate Xbox leadership from responsibility? No, it obviously doesn't. Being the central cog in a machine that's grinding up people in creative projects and, failing to serve customers, that, being a cog doesn't absolve you just because you didn't pull the lever. And that's especially because it's Xbox's own leadership decisions that seem to be responsible for a lot of the wreckage we've seen over the last few days. If you look at the cancelled projects, each of them have been in development for far beyond what the regular scope of a game should be. I mean, several have been leaked as just suffering from a lack of direction, a lack of corporate structure, much like, as an example, the closing of Arcane Austin and all the stuff with Tango Gameworks. The decision basically seems to have been to cancel these projects based on how far they were to realistically shipping something. I'm almost surprised that Fable didn't get killed. And look,
Fable has already been cooking for 10 years. They're probably going to release at least something. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if Fable just actually gets canned. But, I mean, Fable is as dead as it gets.
Much like, say, with Arcane Austin's Redfall, which, was a bit of a lol cow of its time, these problems stemmed from the era where Xbox just didn't get involved with their studios, right? They just let their studios struggle on without support as projects stagnated. And it's kind of weird because they would almost boast, of, we're hands off. We're not going to get involved in their affairs. But what that actually seems to have translated to is people not having a clear goal, people not having clear management. And, it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, we're very hands-off and cool as bosses.
That doesn't make sense, okay? Because if you're Xbox and you're not micromanaging the company that you hired, that is a game development company to develop a game, they shouldn't be leaderless. They shouldn't be just... They should have management because they already have their inner management and shit like that, but this makes, again, all of this makes so little sense.
But does that actually mean that you are giving up, you're not actually taking seriously your responsibility to provide, direction and clarity? Certainly seems to be the case, and certainly in recent years they have pivoted, they have gotten more hands-on. Across the company we've seen a few initiatives of just them sort of connecting their various teams together so they can actually share some talent, but it's too goddamn late. Obviously, just look at all this. And now the devs who tried to make all of this stuff work are of course paying the price. And the executives who made the decisions are obviously not being punished because, Phil's still there, Sarah Bond is still there, Matt Booty's still there.
Sarah Bond, right. I'm gonna use her from the thumbnail probably. Sarah Bond. Bond. Oh man, this is gonna be a thumbnail for the ages for this video, okay, boys?
Their job is actually to preside over making large cuts and things like that. They're actually sort of paid to not get punished in a way. It's very odd, but I think you can see how the funky corporate incentives do actually end up cutting that way. Of course, with all this going on, though, it's no wonder that staff have really had enough And all of this led to significant unionization activity. In the months before these layoffs were confirmed, ZeniMax Workers United was actually given its union contract by Xbox. That was pretty big. Staff, once they got the contract, they ratified it, and according to GameFile, these staff are not immune to the layoffs, but, right, they are being protected and they're being given a voice in the
Ratified means just agreed, accepted, signed, and made it legal for a contract.
process. And that does actually help. At the very least, they are harder to lay off than people who are not in a union. So, those in the union cannot be summarily dismissed. Basically, the union gets to negotiate to try and save as many jobs as they can. Obviously, that can be contrasted with all of the staff across Xbox who, woke up one day just to find out they were locked out of their systems before the workday had even ended. Lovely. And we know from various union.
By the way, this small thing, this small tidbit, is so fucking normal, okay? When you're firing someone and they're no longer gonna work for you, you take away their access from shit, because if you don't, they may take things and leak, may delete shit from their computers and stuff like that because they're mad that they lost their jobs. Okay? If you're getting fired and you wake up one day and you don't have access to your PC, that's normal. That's completely normal. That's the way companies survive.
Efforts at Overwatch, at Bethesda, and at Warcraft that basically, protecting the people who make the games that we actually want to play. So that was the primary reason to act. Microsoft still has to negotiate terms with the bargaining committees of those different groups. It's it's not all done, signed, and stuff.
This is boring. No one cares. Anyway, as always, Xbox is in a horrible position, and everything's going good, Buckaroo. Don't worry about it. Game Pass is gonna just probably be not 20, but $5 minimum more expensive. Don't you worry about it. And that's how this is gonna end. Anyway, bye-bye.